Dani Rodrik, Straight Talk on Trade, Ideas for a Sane World Economy. In Straight Talk on Trade, Ideas for a Sane World Economy, Dani Rodrik delves into the complexities of international trade and the impact of globalization on society. The book covers how trade affects domestic policies, the role of nation-states, the concept of fairness in trade, and the importance of striking a balance between globalization and sovereignty. By exploring these themes, Rodrik provides insights into the urgent need for nations to come together and establish resilient institutions that balance economic growth, democracy, and national sovereignty, all while tackling global challenges.
Trade and globalization. The debate on international trade intensified during political events worldwide in 2016. While trade has benefits, it also raises concerns about fairness due to differing practices. Globalization has driven inequality in the US, making trade a central point in political campaigns. Trump's rejection of trade policies was partly responsible for his success. But, fair trade policies need to balance the benefits of trade and domestic interests of labor, businesses, and the environment, protecting the world's resources. It's time for a pluralistic world to create overarching institutions that preserve strong nations. The vital role of nation-states. Nation-states remain crucial entities for meeting the diverse needs of their citizens and pooling resources to benefit everyone, particularly in times of crisis. While globalization has brought about advantages, people's sense of identity still ties closely to their countries, and sovereign states continue to be responsible for providing civil order and economic and social well-being. The varying rules, regulations, and currencies of nation-states, however, create transaction costs that can constrain the flow of trade, capital, and individuals, limiting economic gains. Therefore, it is important to recognize the vital role of nation-states in the early 21st century. The Hyperglobalization Debate. The concept of hyperglobalization, which aims to create a global economy that supersedes nations, has been advocated by supporters of free market economist Milton Friedman. This has led to a binary choice for policymakers between free markets and national interests, but an orderly world economy requires global governance, which does not yet exist. Though the EU serves as an experiment in hyperglobalization, it lacks the political union necessary for success and faces challenges such as standstill economies, voter discontent, and the ascendancy of extremism. Advocates of hyperglobalization believe it is hindered by transaction costs of the nation-state, yet robust nation-states are essential for international cooperation in environmental oversight. The world needs global institutions that govern trade but do not force integration. The evolution of economic progress. Economic progress has shown the importance of high-functioning nation-states. Through restructuring economies from farming to manufacturing, skilled labor laws, and rising incomes emerge. Developed nations eventually move towards a post-industrial economy in strong institutions, while manufacturing relocates to poorer countries. The policies of one country affect those of another, so domestic economic advantage should not come at the expense of other nations. While most advanced countries are democracies, democratic institutions are not the only way to development. Egypt and Tunisia rank high on social and economic measures, but have authoritarian governments rife with corruption. China is experimenting with local democracy, as it undergoes rapid economic and social restructuring. Achieving market-supporting institutions such as unshackled media and legal systems is difficult, but pluralistic ruling bodies can bring about democratic outcomes globally. It's important to note that when the interests of the elites differ from those of society, it's the elites' views that count, almost exclusively. Rethinking the global trade regime. Economists must consider the impact of trade on income distribution and fairness, rather than solely focusing on economic efficiency. Globalization criticism cannot be dismissed as protectionist without considering the interests of the powerful. The failure to anticipate the 2008 financial crisis was a result of overly simplistic models. Policy inefficiency is not necessarily caused by powerful interests, but by the absence of efficient redistributive mechanisms. Elites are more interested in maintaining their positions than enabling economic growth for others. For efficient economic models, economists must consider the dynamics of different social and institutional settings. The global trade regime must prioritize both fairness and economic efficiency. Revolutionizing global capitalism. The need to reformulate global capitalism and establish guidelines to achieve this is imperative. The book calls for a deeper engagement of markets with political and social institutions. It highlights the importance of a global governance framework while acknowledging that national jurisdiction should apply to policies with local implications. Additionally, the guidelines proposed in the book include the recognition of multiple models of capitalism and the right of nations to protect their regulations and institutions. States should not impose foreign practices on other countries' handling of local issues, but rather formulate traffic rules for the interface among national institutions. Lastly, the book emphasizes the distinction between democratic and non-democratic countries in affording rights and privileges in the international economic order. Fair trade policies. International trade can be problematic between countries with different political and economic systems. Free trade benefits a nation only if it contributes to overall economic well-being. Nation-states must retain enough autonomy to develop their own economic strategies and social contracts. Unfair trade practices, such as dumping of goods, can affect other nations, and a concept of social dumping can lead to undercutting of domestic institutions. Such practices create inequality, and policy measures should be put in place to counter them. Instead of imposing restrictions or bans on global trade, a better approach is to engage in national-level discussions to consider the costs and benefits of such trade.
As we conclude our exploration of A Straight Talk on Trade, it becomes clear that international trade and globalization call for a careful balance between economic welfare, fairness, and the role of nation-states. Rodrik outlines 7 guidelines for shaping a global economy that respects national sovereignty, embraces diverse economic models, and encourages nations to build strong laws, regulations, and institutions. By considering the complex and interconnected nature of trade, labor, and governance, countries can strive towards creating a pluralistic world economy that supports both their unique social contracts and economic strategies, while addressing global challenges.